spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime, right? Storytime with Scarish Podcast. We're here with the stories. We're here with the homegrown horrors.
Indeed we are.
We have homegrown horrors that Adam will tell you the definition of.
You're so weird every episode. Homegrown horrors are the wonderful stories sent to us by you, the listener and or viewer. They can be paranormal, supernatural, spiritual, coincidental, sometimes true crime, and sometimes extraterrestrial in nature. For someone who had a story they would like to share with us to get it shared on the show, Robin, how can they do so?
You can send it to storytime@scarish.com. That's our email. You can also go to our website, which is scarish.com. There's a contact us page. You fill out your deets and that, and then it gets sent to us that way. We also have social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And yeah, also, did I say I'm Robin Grace and you're Adam Diaz?
I don't know.
All right, that's who we are. And
hello.
Yeah, let's get into some stories.
Cool. So we're going to be doing 4 homegrown horrors tonight. Robin, would you like to go first, or should I?
Well, why don't you go first?
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get into our first email of the show, and this one is called The Killing Fields, and it goes like this. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Bayla. I think that's how you say that. Baila. That sound right to you?
Sure.
Yeah, let's go with Bayla. If it's not right, you can email me or Twitch me. Twitch? I don't know. Twitter? All the things. Just contact me and help me. My name is Bayla. I'm a frequent listener and have been for a few months. I love your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyways, I listened to the episode you released today, and that day was November 30th, apparently, on The Killing Fields. I actually grew up at my mom's house on Calder Road. My parents are divorced, so I bounced between houses every week my entire life as a child. I can tell you myself, the Fields has a really intense energy. There's an elementary school now built on the outskirts of it, and they say it's haunted and that doors will lock without anyone nearby to lock it, and that sometimes faculty can hear banging and screaming when absolutely no one is there. I didn't go to this school, but my little brother did, and he experienced the locking door in his 2nd grade class. The class was sent home that day because all the students got really scared and wouldn't stop crying. It makes it worse because this school has no security or regulation, so sometimes when you drive by, there are just random young children walking across the fields and streets alone during the school time hours. That doesn't seem right. Like, what teachers are going to let their students just, wander out okay, hang out in the street, Timmy, that sounds fun, bye.
Texas.
That's true, it is Texas. There's also an old, shabby, and rusty shed in the back middle of the field that gives off the absolute worst energy, and it makes my stomach have a pit just thinking about it.
It's where Freddy Krueger lives.
I mean, he lived in the boiler room, babe. Jesus Christ, read a book. I once walked up to it to check it out myself during the day, and I felt like a deer in headlights. I think what makes it worse is that even to this day, a lot of older men in my neighborhood go about and brag that they killed a girl there and never got caught. I would report that to the police immediately.
I would definitely report that to the police.
But I think it's just an attention thing. Police stop believing anyone who says it because there's so many people who say it now. What a fucking mess. That was a great episode. I just wanted to share my little experience.
Thank you for sending that to us. I can't freaking believe that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that people would brag about murdering a child and that there would be nothing done about it. If your local police aren't going to do anything, I would contact federal authorities and be apparently there was a murder that no one wants to investigate here.
We've already brought up Freddy Krueger once this episode, but they set that man on fire.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's what happened. So don't recommend that whole sort of vigilante justice thing, but I would go through the appropriate channels to try and report a crime because that's horrific. And like you said, the Killing Fields are kind of a crazy place, so for folks to be bragging about that seems absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But either way, thank you so much for sending us that email. We sincerely appreciate it.
All right, so I'm going to get into the next story here, and it begins, hello, Robin, Adam, Spooky Mom, and Spooky Fam.
Hello.
That's us. We're the Spooky
Everyone
Fam.
has to yell hello now. So they included, and my mom has to yell it twice, because I feel like she's part of the Spooky Fam, and she also is Spooky Mom. I guess that means we have to yell it twice, too. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Oh, God.
Hola.
Not you, too.
Wow. Let's
All right.
Back to it.
That's a song by U2, if you guys didn't know. Okay. Spelled U and the number 2.
I think people have heard of the band U2.
No, babe. People don't even know who Paul McCartney is
I was
anymore.
literally just thinking, if there's anyone blessed enough in the world to not know the Hello, Hello song from U2, they must lead a very charmed life. Because U2 sucks.
Remember
if you're a U2 fan,
like,
then I'm sorry for hurting your feelings. But then
when
you went up and one-upped it by saying people don't even know who U2 is. If you're living in a world that doesn't have Bono in it, you're doing your life right.
It's just like when people were like, yo, Kanye's gonna make this dude Paul McCartney blow up. Like, come on.
I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying I feel
or like, what if people are saying that about Elton John right now? What if they're like, Dua Lipa's like gonna make this guy Elton John blow up?
I mean,
it's like, yo.
He already blew up. He's everywhere. He's all over the walls, people.
Is he?
No, it's like I was taking it literally. What is wrong with you?
Wait, why would he be all over?
Because he blew up. There's chunks of Elton John in my hair.
Oh, I get it. Ha 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 ha. Okay, continuing on. My name is Nicole, she, her, and I've been listening since the summer of 2019.
Yes, the pre-COVID times.
I absolutely love the pod. Your podcast came to my Spotify recommended list at the time when I needed some extra. It's okay. I read that sentence weird because I thought you were going to be like, shout out to Spotify. And you never fucking did.
Just take it again from the top.
What? Your podcast came to
shout out Spotify.
You stupid bitch.
That was fucking funny.
Your podcast came to my Spotify recommended list at a time when I needed some extra positivity in my life. So thank you for being that positivity then and since.
You're welcome.
Are we really positive on our show?
I think people enjoy how much we hate each other.
So. Oh, all right. Because I positively hate you.
I know.
I have 2 stories to share today. The second story occurred most recently. After it happened, I decided to stop being lame and send in my recent experience, plus an older story. Ghost listener, no more. All right. Apologies to Spooky Mom in advance. I don't know how to use commas appropriately to save my life. 10th grade English did me dirty. It's so funny because we did help our friend out here, help with her
peer review
her stuff. And there are kids out there that don't know how to use commas.
No one really wants to know this, so I'll make it brief. You do not use them as verbal pauses like you would when you speak. So if I'm saying the sentence and I decide, for dramatic effect, to have a verbal pause, that doesn't mean you put commas in there if you write it. That's it. Just don't do that. That's when you overuse it.
I'll start with the older story first. It occurred 10 years ago when I was in high school. It was the middle of the night when my mother gingerly opened my bedroom door and peeked inside. As the faint glow from the nightlight behind her made its way into my room, I stirred and partially awoke. It wasn't uncommon for her to check on my brother and I during the night, so I wasn't startled by her presence. I could see the silhouette of her head and shoulder leaning in, and I groggily whispered, "I'm awake, Mom," to let her know she could come in and talk. Her normal response of, "Go back to bed," did not come. As I looked at her, I said louder and in a more alert state, "Mom, I'm awake." Again, no response. Somewhat annoyed, I pushed myself up onto my elbow and looked back at where she stood in my doorway. She was gone, and the door was closed. Now even more annoyed and confused she wasn't responding and had woken me up, I climbed up out of bed and marched toward the door. I called even louder in the most disgruntled teenage voice you can imagine. "Mom, what are you doing?"
Nope, read it to me in your most disgruntled teenage voice you can imagine.
"Mom, what are you doing?"
That's pretty good.
I whipped open my bedroom door to confront her, but the small landing outside my door was empty. I quickly scanned the stairs from the landing on which I stood to the level below, the living space 1 level below, and the stairs from 1 level below to the 2nd level below. I could see all this from the small landing, as my parents' house is a series of half floors, all very open concept. My mom was nowhere to be seen. There's no way she could have moved from my door down 2 flights of stairs and a large living space in the time it took me to cross my room.
Can you imagine checking on your kid in the middle of the night? You creak the door open, you see them, they're like, "Mom, I'm awake." And your first instinct is like, "I'm going to jump off that balcony right now and freak them out."
I mean, if you really wanted to...
You're that dedicated to freaking your kid out.
Yeah.
Kudos.
1, that distance was too far. 2, I would have heard her running. The floors were quite squeaky. I could always hear when someone was approaching my bedroom from at least 1 floor below. Side note, that came in pretty handy when I was doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing. In this case, it was confusing and disconcerting. I turned my attention from downstairs to my right, where the door to a bathroom and a door to my little brother's room stood. Those doors shared the landing with my room. I thought she must be in one of those rooms, since she couldn't have made it downstairs and out of sight so quickly. Those were the only other places to go, so I flipped on the lights of the bathroom and I could see she wasn't there. Then I opened the other door and peeked into my brother's room and whispered, Mom, 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 Mom. Mom. My eyes adjusted to the darkness and I could see she was not there either. Only my brother, out cold, in his bed. I whispered his name to see if he was awake. He was perfectly still and breathing slowly and rhythmically, as one does in their sleep. Part of me thought, or hoped, he would respond or laugh at his success in duping me. My hope faded as the seconds ticked away and there was no response. My stomach sank to my feet as I began to realize whatever peeked in my room was not my mom. I was genuinely confused and now scared because I really felt it had been my mom at the door. I tried to convince myself I must have been too tired and been partially dreaming. The problem with that was I knew I was awake when I saw the figure looking into my room. Needless to say, I slept with the light on for the rest of the night. To validate my conclusion that my mom had not been upstairs that night, I asked her the next morning. She looked at me confused and said she'd not checked on either of us kids the night before. The sincerity in her demeanor and fact that she's not a prankster confirmed for me that she had not been upstairs. Perhaps I was more asleep than I thought and dreamt her looking in on me, or my little brother pulled off a prank of a lifetime. All I can say is that I really believe and feel there was someone or something checking on me. At the time, I was really creeped out, but there was no negative energy or fear when I first saw the figure. I wouldn't have thought it was my mom if the figure had a formidable demeanor. I'd like to believe someone was, and hopefully still is, looking out for me. This second story occurred more recently. A few weeks prior to the start of this story, I learned my dad needed open heart surgery. Wow. That is scary.
That is.
That's the true horror of this story. I woke up early on a weekend. I kept my eyes closed in an effort to fall back asleep, but it was too late. My mind was already racing with thoughts of concern for my dad. The anxiety began to swell inside me. Just when I thought I was going to burst, I felt a reassuring hand press into the small of my back. The anxiety immediately left me, and I got an overwhelming feeling I was being comforted. I can't say why, but my thoughts shifted to my late grandmother, my dad's mother. She passed away a few months before I was born. The flood of comfort and thoughts of my grandmother all came to me over the course of only a few seconds. Confused, I opened my eyes and looked at my boyfriend next to me. He often places his hand on my back in my sleep. All right. This morning, though, he was rolled over with his back to me. I gulped and thought maybe the comforter shifted and felt like a hand on my back. I couldn't quite believe this either because it's not heavy enough to feel like a hand, let alone shift in a way that was exactly the size of a hand. It spooked me at first, but I decided to let myself believe it was my grandmother trying to calm and comfort me about the upcoming surgery. Though I have no way to know if she was trying to tell me that the surgery will be successful or that my dad would be safe with her if it wasn't. For now, I'm choosing to believe my grandmother was trying to tell me that my dad would come out of surgery okay. Plus, I have no logical or medical reason to believe the surgery will be unsuccessful. Thank you so much to Nicole for sending that to us. We're really glad, or I hope at least, your dad came out all right.
Yeah, thank you so much for sending this in. This was a really good story. Like, it's really creepy. The first one you sent, definitely having something pop into your room and stare at you and then disappear afterwards, is creepy even if it didn't have a negative energy. It's just sort of a weird thing to have happen. And in the case of the second one, we sincerely hope that everything went well with that surgery, and we appreciate you sharing that experience with us.
So before we move into our next story, we are going to take a really quick commercial break. And we're back.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move into our third story of the show, and this one's subject is Storytime, Maple-Flavored Snow Demon. In parentheses, I'd be more than happy if this one ends up on the pod. Yes, you can read this one on the pod.
Maple-flavored snow demon.
Don't know. We're going to get into it, though. Starts out like this. Hello, friends of the Weekly Horror. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Jacob, and I have a rather chilling true story for you tonight. It's the best I can do.
Is that his laugh?
It says Crypt Keeper laugh in parentheses, and I don't remember exactly what it sounds like. It's been a minute since I watched Tales from the Crypt, but
I love that laugh that Garrett sent you that I did the other day.
Oh, the one where you fucking burst in the door and scared the shit out of me in the middle of recording?
It's the perfect evil villain laugh.
Yeah, if you're cheesy and lame.
Yeah, all right. I am cheesy and lame.
I'm going to keep going.
Get on this train.
So they have a chilling story for us. But before that, I have two things I want to say. I recently discovered the pod, and it's basically the only thing I've been listening to lately. It's so interesting and so awesome to see that you've built a safe place for people to share their sometimes traumatic and very personal stories and not be judged. It's very nice of you to say. I really appreciate that. So the shout out goes to Adam, his mom, and that bird. You guys are the best.
Am I the bird?
I think so.
What the fuck?
And make
That is
the
some
world
offensive shit.
a better place. Also, the podcast is just funny as fuck. That's really awesome to hear. I also swear that what I'm about to tell you is real. I saw something I can't explain, and it kind of messed with me. Also, it's a rather long story, so brace yourself. With that out of the way, let's get right to the spookies. Tonight's story takes place in a tiny Canadian town in the middle of nowhere, and it shows us that the winter brings more than just the cold. I'm calling it The Iceman Cometh. Says another Crypt Keeper laugh. It's better. I mean, The Iceman Cometh followed by the Crypt Keeper laugh is better than like a creepy laugh. Like a different kind of creepy laugh. Anyways, oh, Canada, you always manage to surprise me. But be it your deadly weather, your shitty beer, or your weird obsession with acorns, hey, Canada has good beer. I'm just saying, Kokanee is some of the best beer that I've had in a long time.
Not to be confused with Kookanoo.
There's only one thing I would have never suspected from you, that being a fucking demon. But let's start at the beginning. My family originally comes from Salem, and I've even been born there. But we moved up here when I was around 5 years old. And where exactly did we move? Only into the tiniest, weirdest town you can imagine. It's the kind of town where everybody knows everyone, and you can't even take a shit without someone noticing. Also, the winters around our area tend to get very cold and stormy. It was particularly bad a couple of years ago. I was home from college visiting my parents and some old friends. The day before Christmas, we, said friends and I, went out to the pub and grabbed some cold ones. That night, a surprise blizzard came up and trapped us in there, but my dumbass thought it would be a good idea to just go home through that blizzard, and I did just that.
What?
It was hell. I mean, there's a reason you shouldn't go out when there's a blizzard. It was beyond cold, and you could barely see 5 feet in front of you. All I could think of was the warmth of my home and a nice hot cocoa while watching Indiana Jones.
Oh, shit.
It must have been around halfway home, near the church, when I heard it. Other footsteps in the snow. I could hear them through the storm, as if they were next to me. I spun around trying to spot someone, and I did. There was something behind me, barely noticeable in the dark and through all the snow. A silhouette of something just standing there, watching, as if I caught it preying on me. The silhouette was tall and thin, with weird shapes on its back, and as far as I could make out, it had some sort of sack in its right hand. It sounds like Krampus is coming for you. While I was standing there trying to grasp what I was seeing, the silhouette started slowly walking towards me. I just stood there, frozen in place. I wasn't even scared. I just couldn't fathom what was going on.
It was Kristoff from Frozen.
Why would he have weird shapes on his back?
Yeah, he's carrying something on his back, and he has a sack in his hand.
Maybe? I don't remember him having something on his back.
The sack's full of carrots for Sven.
The knapsack on his back. And then it came into view. I barely took a look at it, but to this day, it's still burned into my mind. I will pause the story now to remind everyone that they swore in the beginning this is true. It had pale skin, abnormally long arms, and the weird shapes on its back weren't just shapes, they were large, leathery wings. But the worst part about it was its face. It was quite like that of a human, but distorted into a grotesque, demonic visage, with big round eyes bulging out of their sockets, staring intently at me, and a mouth frozen in a silent scream. It bore a strong resemblance to something from a Hieronymus Bosch, I don't know if I'm saying that right at all, I don't know who the fuck that is, painting. I'm guessing it's the guy who made the Scream painting. Then it slowly raised its arm. It looked like it was trying to grab me. I couldn't do it anymore. I just ran as fast as possible through the snow, not minding the direction I was heading. It was a miracle I found my way home, and surprisingly, I didn't sleep for 1 second, and when I told my parents the next day, they shockingly kind of believed me. Here's why. There's this local legend. It's very local. So local, in fact, that no one outside our town has ever heard of it. The legend of the quote-unquote Eversnow. Whenever it's winter, there comes the Eversnow, born from the cold here to take the children that wander alone through the snow. It puts them in its sack and flies them straight to hell, where they then burn and suffer for all eternity. At least they get warmed up. It's pretty nasty. It's also just a tale told to children so they wouldn't go out in the snow alone, because up here that can be pretty dangerous. No one believes it, and no one has told it in centuries. Well, then how do you know about it? That's why I've never heard of it. Besides that, I couldn't find anything about the Eversnow, not on the internet nor somewhere else, except in our library in a book about our town. In the winter of 1897, a couple of children went missing, and the Eversnow was listed as a possible reason, even though I think that was a very untasteful joke. And that's it. I never saw something like that again. No children were kidnapped and dragged to hell, and I still think Molson sucks ass.
Who's Molson?
Molson's the beer.
Oh.
I don't know what I saw that night. Maybe it was the Eversnow. Maybe it wasn't. I just know that I saw something I can't explain, and even though it has been 2 years, it still haunts me. Sometimes I dream about it, and sometimes it just randomly pops into my mind, and I almost get a panic attack. It just feels good to tell somebody about the time I saw the Eversnow. And with this, our story ends. Glad you made it through alive, just like our handsome protagonist who escaped death by a breeze. Hysterical crypt for laughter. I don't think I can do that.
I feel like he's like,
Yep, that's exactly how he sounds. Good job, Robin.
Perfect.
P.S.
Perfect.
I'm working on a story for Pasta Time, and I'm not quite sure how I have to send it to you guys. Please help a lost soul. Love, Jacob Barnabas Crampton. Well, thank you so much for sending that in. If you want to send in your Pasta Time, you can email pastatime@scarish.com. And this one's crazy. I want to learn more about the Eversnow and look up this book that apparently has some reference to it, or just come interview some folks that know some stuff about it, but I don't know if I have the money to travel there.
If you folks have Pasta Time stories, you can email it to pastatime@scarish.com.
Which I just said
20
seconds ago.
Well, now you have heard it again, and therefore we've reiterated pastatime@scarish.com.
I'm glad we were able to reiterate that. So, good stuff, and thank you one more time, Jacob, for sending that in. That one's creepy as fuck.
All right. So this last email of this episode doesn't really have a topic, but I am just going to get into it. It begins, I want to write about the haunted-ass house I lived in when I was a kid. But man, do the stories go on with that one. Content warning for mentions of domestic violence in this one. So if you folks do get triggered by that, forewarning, you can skip this story.
Appreciate the content warning.
One that's particularly eerie, story about the haunted ass house, back to that again.
Yeah.
One that's particularly eerie that comes to mind was when I had to stop at home to grab my Wii. For those of you that are very young and weren't around when the Nintendo Wii existed, it was...
Why are you listening to this show? It's rated mature. You shouldn't be listening to this show.
The Wii was great. I think it was the first one with like motion controls, right?
Yep.
I had just gotten a new game and was excited to have my friend play it. Anyway, when I got home, I was alone. My mom and sisters had gone to a family member's house, but knew I was staying at a friend's that night. I also need to mention that during this time period, my stepdad was currently out of jail. Oh, already a red flag. And our house was under protection and watch from the police. The police were not stationed on the street, but passed by the house when they make their rounds. So there was a risk of him getting to the house between those rounds. He was a very violent person and came close to murdering someone in the house before law enforcement stepped in. Nevertheless, I had to get the Wii from the basement. In the Chicago bungalow house I lived in, there was only one way into and out of the basement. So it's probably just one door.
Right.
No windows.
Or like the tiny windows at the top of the ceiling.
Where you can't really fit in.
Yeah.
I had successfully finagled the Wii and games into a bag, but paused when I heard the slam of the front door upstairs. I froze with the bag in hand and listened. Slow, heavy-set footsteps made their way towards the stairs to the basement, and I panicked. I was sure it was my stepdad, and I was sure that I was in danger. I kept listening, and they got to the landing of the basement stairs. I waited and eventually grabbed my brother's baseball bat and made my way up the stairs. I didn't want to confront anything, but I suck at sitting still and still had my teenage energy drink-fueled crackhead energy.
Wow.
Nothing. No one was in the house. I didn't stick around to find out if anyone was hiding. When I got outside, though, only my car was there. I locked up the house and carried on my way. It thankfully wasn't a potential murderer. It was just the house demon getting on his bullshit again.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Crow, for sending that in. That's kind of scary that, like, you heard the front door slam. Okay, my question is, did you lock the door when you came into the house, you know?
It sounds like they probably left it open because they were just running in to grab something.
Yeah.
But standing in a dark basement, hearing the front door slam and then heavy-set footsteps, only to have no one be upstairs when you know that there's someone intent on injuring you or causing you bodily harm that the police are, like, looking for or protecting you from, is a different type of scary.
I would call the police to do a, what is it called?
Just a check? Just check the house?
Like, they call it something, though, right? A sweep. sweep the house. Do a sweep of the house.
But how many brooms do you have, Robin? Why would you call the police to sweep your house? That seems like an unnecessary waste of resources.
If you heard someone, right? If you heard someone walk in...
and you think the police need to come clean my house? Don't hit me.
And you didn't see anyone, but you heard them. You call the police. If you heard someone and you're scared, leave the house. Call the police. Have them do a sweep of the house. Because if you heard someone and you're like, oh, but I came out and no one was there, they could be hiding. So, for this particular...
he's younger. That would mean he'd have to stay there, let the police in. Otherwise, they're going to have to find their way in. Or leave the house unlocked, and then it becomes a bigger deal than I think he wanted to make it. Since he checked the house, there was no one there, and he just decided to get the fuck out of there.
He said he didn't spend time there to look.
I mean, he checked when he went upstairs. He didn't find anything, but he didn't check to see if someone was hiding.
Yeah.
And then he left. So I'm saying he clearly didn't want to make it a bigger thing.
To me, it would be like my mom and my sisters are gone, and they're going to come home, right? I would call the police to make sure no one's going to be there to murder my mom and my sisters.
One thing that's been left out of the story that we really should have been told is what game was it? Because some games are urgent and need. If this was Twilight Princess and it just came out, which it can't be because that's when the Wii came out. We all fucking know that is day and date. I would understand the urgency there. But as a kid, too, you're probably kind of scared to call the cops and have them come and there's nothing there, Because then you might look like you're looking for attention or they just might get mad at you for wasting their time. So... it is what it is. It was a bad situation to begin with. I'm happy they made it out of there safe. So.
Yeah, but for advice for anybody out there, if this happens to you, good advice is
the first thing I would have done is called the police while I was in the basement. I'd have been like, hey, I'm in my house. You guys are patrolling to make sure no one gets in. I just heard someone come in. I hear footsteps upstairs. I am holding a bat. Should probably have that patrol car come here right now.
Wait. Oh, no.
I wouldn't wait until I searched the house. I would have them come while I was in the house in the basement.
I was about to ask if cell phones existed, but I was like, oh, wait, the Wii existed, therefore cell phones existed.
Yes. Very good.
Okay.
All right, good stuff. Thank you so much for sending that in. So I'd like to thank everyone who wrote stories and sent them to us. We sincerely appreciate you all sharing your stories with us because sometimes they can be deeply personal or you're afraid you're going to be judged, like it was mentioned in one of our earlier stories. We are not here to do that. So thank you for sharing with us. If you have a story you would like to share, please email storytime@scarish.com or go to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. Fill out that form. It does come directly to us, or you can hit us up on any of our social medias. Facebook is facebook.com/scarishpodcast. Twitter is @scarishpod, and Instagram is @scarishpodcast. Robin, for folks who would like to donate to us, how can they do so?
You can go to patreon.com/scarishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. At $1, you get ad-free, which you can't really go wrong with there. And if you're not into the monthly donation type thing, you can also go to coffee, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast, and those are one-time donations. All your donations go to helping us keep the podcast going, pay for background things like website fees and stuff like that.
Hosting is expensive, y'all, but you make it a lot easier for us through your donations, and we sincerely appreciate it. So,
yeah.
But that's everything we have for Storytime 183. We've been doing this for a while. And, Robin, why don't you go ahead and sign us out?
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye. Do you ever think about the fact that 183 episodes means it's like 300 hours of your time, 400 hours of your time?
I think about it in terms of the stories people have decided to send to us, which is well over 1,000 at this point. So
1,000 hours of our time?
Sure, if you want to, we can calculate it later.
All right.
Hours of my time is significantly longer than hours of your time, though. But anyways, bye!